I was looking at this earlier. It looks like some lurks upgrading in the background. He's on level 1 spine, so he's kind of going all in at this point. He's thinking, I need to end this early, and that's really going to come around to dying that third expansion. In the meantime, he's going to looks like we've already seen level 1 weapons on the Zealots, and I think level 2 weapons coming shortly. If that level 2 weapon comes out before before Jaedong even manages to get level 1 Carapace, he's going to be relying entirely on micromanagement. It's just going to, I mean, that's kind of ballsy in his point, saying to Cal, essentially, I can straight micromanage you. And it looks like, yeah, going to load up for a drop here. This is kind of what just kind of the positioning around the map that I saw earlier, bringing those overlords in and around. He's just had overlords around the area this entire time. I felt like this was kind of his plan. Yeah, it looks like 5 overlords full of a couple lurkers, a couple hydralisks now dropping in. And this is really intelligent because Cal has a lot of his forces out in the field, trapped in the middle of the map. He's going to have to bring all of his forces back, and even then, if he brings his forces back to defend his main, he's not going to be able to defend that third expansion. So Jaedong's going to be able to get a win here either way, in my opinion.
Yeah, this is absolutely genius play by Jaedong, and really, I think you've got to say that this is adaptation of strategy by Jaedong, because of the fact that Cal did not go for courses. And Cal, meanwhile, just mopping up all of Jaedong's forces in the middle of the map. But Jaedong's not going to mind that, because he's going to be pounding the gateways. He needs to focus his attack a little bit more. I don't think Cal even has a single an observatory. He definitely doesn't have a robotics facility. So this is it. Those lurkers are basically going to polish. Oh, he does have an observatory up. He does have a robotics facility. But I just think it's going to be too little, too late for him. And he's now got his probes trapped in between those hydralisks, and those lurkers are just going to eat through his probes and just completely destroy his economy. Complete massacre of the probes there. Jaedong just eats up all the probes with those lurkers. Thank you very much, Mr. Probe. The lurkers are having a healthy diet of Protoss probes, and that nexus is going to go down, and that I don't think it's an advantage from which Cal can possibly bounce back. But I think the fact is, as a Protoss player, I think it's always a risky strategy to surrender, and it looks like Cal's going to take out the 11 o'clock expansion. I don't think it's going to make any difference in the long run of the game. I think Jaedong is less hurt by losing that expansion than Cal is by losing his expansion. But I think as a Protoss player, it's always a risky strategy to surrender air superiority to the Zerg player, and that Nexus definitely is going to. Then the Nexus dies just before those lurkers get picked off by those Zealots. I think it's a very risky strategy as a Protoss player to surrender air superiority, especially on a map like Blue Storm, which is all about maneuverability to your opponent. Because especially early game, mid game, Protoss doesn't have a lot of maneuverability with their units, and because their units are such powerful units, they tend to keep them bunched up, and they tend to have them roaming around. So Jaedong lured him to the middle of the map and then went in for the drop, and once Cal didn't scout that drop, that was always going to be a devastating drop. Obviously, if he'd scouted it and he'd been ready and waiting for it, it would have been a different matter entirely, but he didn't have his observers out in time, and really at this point, I think this has got to be Jaedong's game. But Cal has equalized a little bit. It looks like Cal has actually got a superior force on the ground at the moment, but Jaedong microing excellently with those hydralisks against Cal, and Cal doesn't have any High Templar left. Jaedong's going to be forced to pull back here. I don't think Cal has enough to break Jaedong's defense. Jaedong's got a shorter supply route to reinforce him, and that's the other problem for Protoss, obviously, that the reinforcements take longer to arrive, and so once a built-up Protoss army is destroyed, it's much harder to replenish to its original strength, and Jaedong now just trying to burrow a pesky lurker in, but unfortunately he's burrowed that within line of sight, that excellently placed cannon by Cal. But Jaedong firmly in the lead here, and I'm not sure if you think whether he adapted to Cal's strategy or whether it was his plan all along. I think certainly you were suggesting that it was Jaedong's plan to drop all along. I personally would feel that he adapted to Cal's lack of Corsairs, because obviously if Cal had a huge bunch of Corsairs roaming around the map going for the Bisu build, then I don't think that a drop would have been nearly as effective.
I don't think Jaedong's out of the woods yet. He went level 2 spines, and it doesn't look like he has an absolutely dominant Hydralisk force out, and it looks like we see the level 2 weapons upgrade in the meantime on those Zealots. So I still think there's going to be a decent amount of micromanagement that Jaedong needs to pull here in order to win this game. Looks like he's pushing into the bottom right and going to deny any other additional expansions. He's a little, I'm worried about this because I still feel like he might be a little bit caught out of position here. He doesn't have a lot of reinforcements, and really if Cal can get in close on any of Jaedong's forces, he can rip through them really rapidly with that Zealot force. They are speed upgraded, they are level 2 weapons upgraded. Looks like Jaedong pushing in, wow, going off after that third expansion, and we'll see if the reinforcements that are coming from Jaedong's base, looks like some Templar are coming up to supplement, so I think he's going to be able to save this pretty comfortably here. And also some Templar waiting, storming his own Zealot there though, but able to take care of the Lurker subsequently. And wow, actually, Cal managing to take down that expansion in the upper left-hand corner once again, so Jaedong being held to 3 bases once again. And 3 base on 3 base, actually, Protoss in a pretty strong advantage. You don't want to be in a 3 base situation, especially, and this is where I feel like Jaedong's strategy actually of going spines is kind of hurting him. Really, he wants to be able to just leave his units alone, not bother about micromanaging them all over the field. And as you can see, he has to dedicate more micromanagement than he would have to otherwise, because he went that level 2 spine. spines, managing to pick off an Archon there, but it looks like he's going to lose this entire Hydralisk force. It doesn't look like he's managed to produce a lot of Hydralisks here in the background, and again, I feel like that's, again, kind of because he's had to micro them all over the map because of this level 2 spines upgrade. We'll see if, and actually a decent-sized force out there for Cal. We'll see how this ends up, though, in the long term.
Yeah, I think you're calling it absolutely right. I think Jaedong's actually in a huge world of trouble right now. I thought he was going to be comfortable after that drop against Cal, but I didn't factor in the third base, and obviously not counting in the fact as well that he lost that 11 o'clock expansion, and that's turning out to be a lot more crucial than I thought, because right now Cal has got a massive force on the ground. Jaedong is utterly on the defensive, and his Hydralisk force is completely countered by what Cal has on the ground. And Cal has rebuilt his army quite rapidly now, and Jaedong is actually being outproduced by a Protoss player, and once you're being outproduced by a Protoss player, Zerg, that usually spells curtains. So actually, I'm going to have to swing it the other way and say it's Cal now who's in the dominant position. Jaedong doesn't have a contain or anything going. He doesn't really have much going for him, and those lurkers are not going to probably have even time to pop. He's not nor has he been able to pick off those observers because he doesn't have Aspire and therefore no Scourges. He's not even keeping Overlords around. He's doing a great job of microing those Hydralisks though, and he's actually managed to whittle this force of Cal down and actually keep himself in the game. And Jaedong once again going for that 11 o'clock expansion, and he really needs to invest a couple of lurkers around there or something around there to keep that expansion alive, because that's really going to be the key to his survival. This Jaedong needs to try and pick off some of these High Templar here because Cal doesn't have a lot of Zealots to support him, and Jaedong does manage to kill one of the High Templars, also managed to pick up the Zealots. So great play by Jaedong. If he can force Cal back here, he's going to be able to take out those Archons before they come out, and once again that expansion in the 11 o'clock position doesn't go down, and Jaedong with his superior micro keeping himself in the game. I think a lesser Zerg player would be gone by now, and Cal now able to take the expansion to the 5 o'clock position. So this is Jaedong's opportunity really to, because Cal has invested resources in that expansion, he does have a slightly weaker ground force on the ground at the moment. But he's got, I think, about 6 gateways up. Jaedong doesn't have a lot of ground troops himself, and Cal, look at that, Cal's forces are so superior to Jaedong's. He's got about 6 Dragoons and 6 Zealots, as well as 3 High Templar to Jaedong's 1 full group of Hydralisks, and without any lurker support, he's obviously going to struggle there. Jaedong now trying to take the 6 o'clock expansion. Cal obviously realizing that he's actually pushed Jaedong away, and Jaedong's not going to be able to actually reach that 6 o'clock expansion along the ground, so Cal can kill it at will, and really it's just a matter of Cal scouting it. It does look like Cal has swung the momentum in his favor, and looks like you called it perfectly with the upgrade. Jaedong does have level 1 Carpus now, but I think it might be a little bit too late for him. What do you think, Diggity?
I definitely, man, he's in such a hard trouble, and this is what I feel with that level 2 spines upgrade. He was hoping to end it with those drops. I think he was hoping to get 2 bases, or basically be able to take out that 3rd expansion and the main at the same time. Not sure what held him up. I think because Cal's forces were out in the field, he was kind of distracted and ended up losing a lot of forces out in the field as a result. But because he has to dedicate so much micromanagement to his Hydralisks, he just can't macro to his usual level, and as a result, he's just getting out macroed by Cal. And Cal's just throwing forces up. He doesn't have to worry about microing his Zealots. He just needs to throw Zealots to the front and make sure they protect the Templar. Then every once in a while come back for a Psystorm. So it's just kind of a, I would say it's kind of a disadvantageous situation for Jaedong. We'll see, and right now he has nothing to protect that 6 o'clock expansion. Well, just a handful of Zealots. Actually, is it even, we'll see. Yeah, it looks like a couple Zealots heading in there on the mini-map right now. And he's in big trouble right now. Yeah, Probe actually just going to scout that out right now. But he's in big trouble now. These Zealots pushing in, going to be able to take out that Sun Colony probably. And these Hydralisks getting, they have to micro their way backwards. They can't defend that expansion at the moment. He has nothing to engage Cal at this point. Taking out his own observer, it looks like right there. And that expansion's now down. And that's going to be GG. He could, there's no way he could win out of 2 bases at this point. Wow. So Cal taking game 1 very impressively, actually. A nice recovery after that drop. Feeling very confident, as you can see right there. Jaedong, I feel like he got a little bit, I'm not going to say cocky or arrogant, but definitely played a little bit riskier than I think he needed to. I think he can beat Jaedong in the Cal in the long term. I don't think he needs to do kind of these all-in strategies, but that time didn't pay out for him.
Yeah, that was complacent of Jaedong. I think the key was the 3rd expansion. Obviously,